So when struggling with anxiety, for a lot of people, myself included, it started off with a panic attack. Now that's not always the case. You don't necessarily have to have a panic attack to fall into the cycle. It can happen gradually as well. But what happens is that one of the things that's almost universal is when people fall into the cycle, they really don't know what's happening. They don't know why they're experiencing this. And what happens is they try to find meaning into everything. They try to plug in meaning. Why did this happen? Was it because of this? Was it something that I did? I remember I was talking to people, I was talking to my parents, and I literally thought, I actually thought that I fell into this because I did something bad to somebody or something like that. Like, I was just like, I didn't really do anything wrong to anybody, and at least not intentionally. Like, why is this happening to me? I was trying to find meaning in anything and everything. And so I was just so desperate to get better. And I find with a lot of anxiety sufferers, they do the same thing. And so as I'm guiding people through recovery, I often find this common mistake people make. And that mistake is that they start coming up with a narrative for why they're going through what they're going through. And what that means is sometimes they'll have narratives and they'll have stories in their own head. And what they will do is they'll act out certain ways to justify their narrative. Oftentimes what I find is that when I'm guiding people to recovery, there's times where they think they've recovered. I know they still need more time. And so they think they're recovering, and then they get hit with a setback. And a setback just means that you're experiencing a little bit more anxiety, just like good days and bad days. You have a little bit more bad days, and some of the symptoms come back temporarily, and you need to give it more time. But because they experience a setback, well, now in their whole narrative, now their narrative gets challenged. Oh, but I was recovered. Oh, but this isn't. Oh, wait, what? And then they think, oh, well, maybe I'm never going to recover. They're like this black or white kind of thing, And so I find that a lot with people that are well on their way to recovery. And then I also find people in the very beginning. It's like, this is just going to be me forever. I've tried anything and everything and it hasn't worked, so this is how it's going to be. And with those people, I can't help. Because it's like, look, if you've already came up with a conclusion, what am I going to do? If you're really truly going to believe that, even if I guide you, even if I live with you and show you everything to do, you're not going to do it. And so it's sad to say, and it's really sad to see. But the biggest thing is that, if people have that belief, nothing I can do. But what is the commonality between both these people? The commonality is that they both have a narrative. And here's the problem. Narratives are just stories you've told yourself. They're not real. They're just stories. They're just mental noise. And what happens is that I often see that mental noise blocks people from recovery. It does, because sometimes people think they need to hold on to a certain identity. And part of recovery is letting go of those identities. Letting go of these habits that you've had in terms of being a worrier, stress managing, always listening to every single thought and believing it's yours, to recognize that not all those things are true, but you have to let go of part of that. And letting go of part of that feels like you're letting go of you. But here's the thing, none of those things were you anyway. Yeah? You're not your thoughts. These things that you feel are you are just accumulations of your upbringing. If you would have put yourself in a different situation, you would have had different ones. Neither one is true. Fundamentally, that is not you. But what I often find is people have this narrative in their head. Oh, this panic attack happened because I had smoked weed and it was the weed that caused it. And when I'm guiding people, I'm showing them, sure, the weed may have triggered it, but it's not the weed right now. It's the anxiety. You have anxiety. But you have to let go of that. But there's a whole narrative around it. And then people start getting really imaginative with their narratives. They start imagining a whole bunch of things. They start thinking some like sci-fi stuff, or they think like, there's some like spiritual mysticism stuff. And it's just like, yo, like it's just anxiety. Like, let's get out of this. But I kind of downplay it. But the truth is that a lot of this is that you have to recognize that you have to be aware of your own narratives. You have to be aware of your own inner dialogues. And people that don't struggle through anxiety don't have to do that. That doesn't mean that they're not listening to an internal dialogue. It's just that when people are recovering, they have to be more aware of it. And if you become more aware of it, if you think about it long term, it's actually better for you. Don't you want to be somebody who understands when an inner dialogue is going against you? Don't you want to be somebody who wants to see reality for what it is? Most people don't do that, but one of the things that you learn in recovery is that you learn these inner dialogues and these inner narratives that you have. And you start seeing other people following their own narrative. They have an idea in their own head. They're probably not even aware of it themselves, and then they try to act on it. So look, this channel is about simplifying things. Yeah, it's not about complicating things. I can make things complicated, trust me. But anxiety sufferers are doing that already. And it's typically the overcomplication that keeps people in the cycle. So simplify it. The biggest thing to really understand is recognize that just be aware of the inner noise and the inner dialogue you have with yourself. Just be aware of it and ask yourself, is this conducive to your recovery? And giving that inner dialogue a little bit of space, recognizing that inner dialogue isn't you. Inner dialogue is sometimes just trash talk. Your brain is just throwing trash talk, especially because when you're anxious, you have a negativity bias. You look at everything negatively. There's a survival advantage to that, of course. But right now, it's going against you. So I would highly challenge you, just be aware of it. Just be aware of the narrative. This way, you're not responding in an unconscious manner. You're at least for once responding consciously, and that's a huge part of recovery, right? It's about responding consciously. Is that even though I feel panic, I'm going to consciously sit here and still make this video. Yeah? Even though I have every impulse, my fight or flight response wants me to run away. And that's what you've been doing. You feel the panic, you freak out. You get physical symptoms, you Google search. You get intrusive thoughts, you get assurance seeking. You're feeling feelings of unreality, you start trying to figure that out too. Right? It's a very natural response. For once, respond consciously, just let it be there. If you let it be there, give it enough time, have patience, have consistency, this will go away on its own. A lot of recovery is about letting go. But before you let go, you have to be conscious of what you're holding on to. And I think these narratives and these inner dialogues really holds people back. And it's rough to see because it's not anxiety's fault. It's not that they don't understand anxiety, but there's other components that they're just not aware of. And letting go of these things is part of recovery. It's part of it. So you have to recognize what's important to you. Really evaluate what's important to you. A lot of people will say they want to recover, but they're not willing to let go of these things. I've learned that the hard way. There are people where I will spend a lot of time with them. I will give them everything. I will guide them step by step. I will do everything to ensure that they will recover. And they won't let go of this. And then there's nothing I can do. My hands are tied. What can I do? What can I do? How can I get people to get better when they're not willing to let go of the same thing that's bringing them down? Can't happen. They're going to drown themselves and then they're going to drown everyone around them. Can't let that happen, right? And so what can you do? So be mindful of that because I see it a lot. It's the dark side of anxiety. I may make a video on that. That I don't really share because sometimes it can be a little bit triggering, especially when people are in the cycle. But it's the dark side in the sense that it's not that recovery is not possible. Recovery is 100% possible. It's just that you see people throw themselves into the cycle because of these things, this identity issues and, this inner dialogue stuff. So don't make that mistake, okay? Anyways, I hope this video helped. I'll see you in the next one.